How about it?
Okay.
Okay, I'll call the Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
AJ,
Here.
and Tanya. Here.
Okay, first period for public comment. No one is here. Anyone online who want to make a comment? Please speak up now, your name and address. Okay, hearing nothing. Approval of committee minutes from February 17th, 2026.
This is Todd. Approve the minutes from February 17th, 2026.
Second.
Motion by Todd, second by Tanya. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Discussion with possible action on salt order for 2026-2027. Sarah, take it away.
All right, let's see. So, we are doing okay with salt usage this year. I would say maybe average. We had, I would say about 650 all in told, and we're gonna use about 400, so it's pretty decent. And so looking forward to next year. So if you remember, like we had a good year where we didn't buy salt in this calendar year, and then this time it was inflated again. Just being cautious because we don't know how much usage we're going to have before we're actually going to need to purchase it. And then prices are obviously fluctuating. I think they're currently $99.84 a ton, which is wow. I remember, I sound so old when I say this, but I remember when it was $45 a ton. And so it certainly has changed. I have this, I mean, it's not really, this is just me, my notes more than an actual presentation. But so we ordered, so we have to put a bid in essentially, or confirm how much salt we will purchase in a year. And then we get into this bid with the DOT. Essentially, they do all the work for us, but they get a price based on all of this quantity purchased across the state. And we have purchased 248 tons in 2025. So we actually have 152 tons that we still need to purchase. But what we've been doing, so when they allocate how much we have, we also are allowed a 20% reserve. So meaning it's earmarked for us. We don't have to purchase it, but it's there in case it's a bad year or whatever. But the last couple of years we've been taking advantage of that because it's like, well, we know the price is less. Well, I shouldn't say that. We know what the price is. And historically it's always been less than the next year, right? And so if we know that we have the cash now, then it makes sense for us to purchase it. So that's what that 232 is. That's saying let's get what we have to buy, and we might as well get the reserve while we're at it so that it's still 99.81. And then so basically, I guess this is remaining, but this is what we would buy under last year's contract. It's about $23,000. And then our current budget for total snow and ice is $66,000. And so we have a few other expenses that go in there, are like blades or our guards, chains. We also buy our sidewalk salt out of there, which is about a couple $1,000s a year. So I put in 15,000 to be conservative, which gives us about 265 tons that we could buy with our dollars in 2026 alone. And we currently have about 280 tons in the shed right now. And
The brand new shed.
the brand new shed, which has capacity, because one of the questions I would always ask is, do you have room for more salt if we order it now? And now the answer is yes, which is so nice. But in any case, so we have about ability to buy about 265 conservatively, I would say probably more than that. There is 280-ish tons in there. Wade figured they could use another 80 to 100 tons. So that gets us to basically having 200 tons available there. So between the two, we're getting pretty close to that 650 mark. And for me, I feel like if we have 650 available to us, we're doing pretty good. So long story short, what I'm looking for ordering is for this 2026-27 year is to get a early fill of 200, a late fill of 200, and then we would have that 80 ton in reserve. And I think that's a good way to do it. Early fill means that we have to order it from any time, I think it's like July 1st to December 2nd. And then after that would be December 2nd is our to April 1st, I think it is our what's considered a seasonal fill. And historically, we've seen better salt in the early fill. And so if we can buy it early, it's good. We have the budget, we have the space, seems like a smart deal. So this is what I'm looking for our purchase. So essentially it would be 400 tons of salt, which is pretty standard protocol. We do not know what that exact cost is because that's a whole part of the bid process, which is another reason why you kind of want to be conservative because you don't want to commit yourself to some significant increase. And it has happened where we have seen a fair chunk of increase.
Sarah, did you say you have to order 400 and then wait for the price? Or can you say we have X amount, how much, buy however much it is?
I know.
You
That's what
can't,
would make sense.
you
wouldn't
can't do it that way.
No, you have to commit to, because they say, okay, the state will order whatever, 1,000,000 tons or whatever it is, and then they have a set price. So
Okay.
that's why they have that reserve is because people are counting on using that if for some reason, like they don't want to commit to more than they can afford. So they're going to make a conservative estimate and then they have that reserve just in case.
Okay.
I know it doesn't work the best. The one savior in all of this is that it does span 2 years of budget, right? So like, if it's higher than expected or even lower, but if it's higher than expected, you can kind of adjust into the next year's budget and you don't sort of like run out into the wall. Like I can, the early fill, clearly we have to commit to, but the late fill I could order in 2026 or 2027.
What a deal.
I know it's confusing, but this is, I would say, a very conservative and realistic estimate of our
Okay.
salt.
Does anybody want to ask a question or make a motion?
Todd will approve the salt order for 26,
400.
408. Is it 400 or 480? Got 80
Or
reserve.
With a 80 ton reserve.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Good for you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Seth,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Tanya. Aye. And Cindy.
Aye, motion carries. Review and approval of pay request number 4, Hanson Farm Project.
All right, they're moving just along because there's not a lot going on out there, so they're getting all the bills in. Yeah, right. So hopefully that means a lull for a while because there's no work to be had. A lot of this is that continuation of earth moving and road base. I don't want to say building, but just the building blocks, I would say. And then also our trench under the stormwater pond for the landfill, which when we go to making the payment for this, I don't know if you want me to isolate that total dollar amount. It's pretty easy, so I can certainly do that for you. Because if you remember, this portion here, this 54,793 would be the amount that's allocated to the landfill trench out of the total.
I think we just isolated and figure out what GL needs.
Perfect. So if you can see, what they did do is there's not the gravel, like trench, this trench excavation, that's kind of like the gravel area. This, what we put in here was that cutoff trench. And so that's why you only see these top items here. So basically it was underneath the pond and on the sides of the pond. So for this pay request, let's scroll back up to the top. This pay request is for that 181, 599 and 79 cents.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
This is Tanya. I'll make a motion to pay the 181, 599.79 for the Hanson Farm project.
Todd will second.
JD, I'll second it.
A motion by Tanya, second by AJ. Roll call, please.
Todd,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
Motion carries. Construction, oh no, discussion with possible action on West South Street reconstruction.
Okay. So I was hoping that my conversation today would be more definitive. And I think I know the direction that I would like to move with it, but then I started being philosophical with Matt, our engineer today, about like, what's the best approach to fund the project. And so there, I guess, may be slight changes, but the short of it, again, is that there's really, this is West South Street. I've kind of highlighted 3 sections here. So 5 years ago, believe it or not, I applied for a LRIP discretionary fund for this West South Street project. So in the previous capital improvement plan, not the one that we tried to do recently, but the one before, West South Street was in there as a project, and it was going to be an in-house resurfacing project. Couple things happened. One, the discretionary money came out with this really amazing, I will say, proposal because it never ended up coming to fruition. And I started looking at that project and realizing that it's probably really more than we want to take on in like as an in-house project for a couple of reasons. One is that there's a decent amount of retaining wall in it. That's always tricky. There is a desire to make the South Street on the north side have a multi-use path so that it would connect with Rock Avenue. It would connect with the park and the park network, and then start heading people out to the school network. And the green section that you see has improvements that need to be made to water and sewer. So it just had the hallmarks of not being a great in-house project. And we were able to focus our in-house projects elsewhere, meaning looking at East South Street, which we're working on this year, right? Which are nice, neater types of projects, which are better for us to do as in-house projects. So I applied for the entirety of the project, and in the program, it actually had what was called a supplemental version. It came out when all the bill money came out, and it allowed for a 90% project funding. And I was like, this is perfect because we had I think it was $50 allocated in the last capital improvement plan. And so that was a great match. I could get the project funding without having to look for anything additional. We got awarded the grant, but they gave us 40% match. And they did that across the board because they decided that there were so many applications that they would fund a cap of 400,000. And so they basically gave us as much as they could. I talked to them immediately and I was like, well, geez, this doesn't work very well because we still need like $500,000 to come up with. And they encouraged us to take it anyway. And because in the LRIP program, you have a 5-year sunset. So essentially we have like from the award almost 7 years to get things going. And they were like, maybe you can come up with the remaining funds, and who wants to say no to $400,000? So it's kind of been sitting there waiting for the capital improvement plan to finish, waiting to see what would happen, and things were looking promising. And then my favorite topic these days, the landfill, came up, and it was like, gosh, that's going to start taking money away from other projects. And so not as easy to just fund. So in talking to them about like what our options are, one of the things that we can do is they will still keep a 50-50 split. Well, they will go up to a 50-50 split, and we can retain the 400,000, by making a request to shrink the project. They will not let me change it to a different location because the discretionary is a very competitive project or application process. And they don't want any of the intentions to change of the project or like the area. So like all the reasons why we said it was a good project, they need those to stand. But we can hopefully make it smaller. And that's what they've suggested along the way. So our sunset date for our project is 2027, the summer of 2027, which sounds like we have till next year, but it means that all of the paperwork has to be finished, meaning every bill has to be paid and I have to submit everything by, I believe it was July 2027. So if we were to do this, we're talking probably more like a late 26 project. And we've been humming and hawing about like, do we just forfeit it? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to be able to get it? And so we've been trying to work through things. And that was sort of where I landed because there was another round of applications for the project. And I thought like, do I forfeit it and try to see if we can get another grant for another extended period of time? But I knew that at least in this term, I wasn't going to get any more money, right? We were going to get $400,000 max no matter what. So I started down a path where I looked at doing that red area. The reason being is it's closest to the park bowl. We can make some of the improvements like fixing the retaining wall and possibly doing some better parking options for the park bowl. Cause I know like when there's gets busy, people overflow. But that section is entirely general fund. There's no water or sewer part of it at all. But I could, like that section is, you know, we're trying to find the right match, right? Like we want to make the most of our money. So if we have $400,000, we want about an $800,000 project so that we can spend the least amount of money, but get the most amount of coverage. So that's kind of where we were at. And then on the orange area that you see that parcel that was newly formed, there's starting to be interest in that parcel as a residential development. And that purple section is not intended to be connected to. I mean, it can be with improvements, but South Street on that end, that was a dead end. The road is really narrow. The water and sewer were not meant to be continuous. Like, for example, the sewer, there's no manhole there. It's just what we call a lamp hole. So it's just like an access point. It's not designed to keep going. Even the sizing of the pipe is undersized and it's clay tile in there for sewer. So just not really ideal. And so in those questions about looking at residential development, they're asking about how to make that connection and is there any chance of improvements? So that came up as a consideration. And so then I started thinking about like, maybe we need to rethink which part of this project we do because I picked it because it seemed like the best approach at the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that still is the case, right? So that area in green there, which is, sorry, I forget people are online. You got Parkwood Trail to Elm Street. So that would be like that last section to the ball diamonds between the Park Bowl and the ball diamonds, more or less. That one could be done instead. The catch is that it's got water replacement in it and it's got a force main that needs to be replaced. And it also potentially has a sewer main that needs to be replaced. That is something Greg and I are talking about, whether it's a good candidate for lining a sewer instead of replacing. But at this point, you know, usually if you tear up a road, you just do the whole thing. So there's a couple things that happen when that's the case. It means that the utilities now has to partake, right? And find funding for it, which is not really a position we're in right now. And that does change the division of the cost. So it does mean that there's more general fund money freed up, so to speak, which could help us look at doing that end of South Street there. And it still needs to be done. So that was kind of where I started focusing on, maybe I should be focusing on this end instead and do the other end, the red side. That means Rock
Yep.
Avenue to Elm Street.
She's
at a
pointing
later
to the
date.
west end, yeah,
Yeah,
that you want to do.
yeah. And then, and when I started getting philosophical, the appropriations grant applications have come in and they're always like, hurry up as fast as you can. And as I was walking through this today with Matt, we started debating about whether that plan is the right plan, because essentially if we applied for the east side of it, we would only get $800,000 worth of, it's not a grant, but like that would be how much the project is worth. Whereas if we were looking at the west side, then the water and sewer can also count under the appropriations. So the lovely thing about the appropriations is that it's not picky like normal grant funding is. So like in a scenario like this, you'd often see us apply for the Clean Water Fund and the Safe Drinking Water Fund, and on top of it, the DOT, or some like combination of them, because the way that the grant funding is it usually doesn't cover all of the costs. So that's a benefit. And the project cost is, even though we would like the sections about the same and the cost of the asphalt is close, the project cost is almost $600,000 to $700,000 more, because you've got all the water and sewer utility stuff in there. And so is it making more sense to apply for that section? Because if you got 80% of that, you would actually end up with more money, right? And it also has more interest, because it's not just the roads are really bad, we want to fix them, which obviously I say in a more eloquent way. But it's the roads are really bad, the sewer is really bad, the water is really bad. You know, we say like, this is why we're picking to do this section instead of anywhere else in the city, is there's 3 things that we need to fix at the same time, not just one. So this is all happening really quickly. So that's why I said I thought I had a plan going forward, and I think we're going to have to come back in terms of figuring out the final version of what we're going to ask council to do here and committee. But these are the things that we're talking about. So there's, I guess, some key points. If we want to utilize that $400,000 of DOT money, we need to act in the next year. We're going to try to see what we can do with things like appropriations money to try to take care of whatever we leave out, like whatever portion doesn't get selected to move forward with the DOT, we would apply. Hopefully we can be lucky with the appropriations funding. There's 2 appropriations pots that we're going after. One of them is Van Orden's office. Van Orden's office is moving applications as of Monday. They want all of them in as of Monday. So we don't have a lot of time to come back to say which side makes the most sense for the application. The application does not commit us to the project, but it would be what we would apply for. And then there's Baldwin's, which is the 24th, I think it is. This gives us a little more time. And so we will have some conversations about what we want to apply for with Baldwin's office. So I guess today is more of a heads up, making sure you're familiar with the scenario. We're talking, the red is about 800,000. The green is about 1.5 million, which is basically 800,000 worth of surface and the rest utilities. I did not get the estimate for the purple area. Matt and I went back and forth. He may have it stuck in somewhere that I haven't been able to find yet. So these are the projects that we're looking at. We're going to make an application under Van Orden's office for some part of this for grant funding with your approval. And meaning you're okay that I pick one or the other. And we need to keep focused on this if we want to use that DOT money this year. So is that probably enough for now?
Did you say the purple in the west end is going to possibly go to a new development, housing development?
So yeah, there is interest developing off of Education Avenue.
Is that the dentist office? Does she, or not office, but does she own that property, or is that still Johnson? That doesn't matter.
It's neither right now.
Oh, I thought she owned, she just owns, the road goes up to her
Well,
house.
I think it's already sold.
We did a certified survey map for that area not that long ago at council.
And
I
I'm
did
sure
not
we'll
figure
hear
where it was, I
more
guess. I was looking
about
at
all
the-
of that soon. But that's what they're looking at doing. And Education Avenue, I don't worry about that at all. That was meant to keep going, but South Street was not meant to be connected to, not that it couldn't, but it needs improvements. So it makes sense from a construction perspective to not put a gap in it. Like instead of, we could do the red section, so the east section and the west section, and leave a gap in the middle, but that doesn't make a great sense. It's not impossible. It would make more sense to do connected pieces. So to do like the middle section and the west section in one.
Does anybody have any questions, or we're waiting for further information, I
Well, further
guess?
information, but I would like, if you are okay with me putting in an application with the community funds under Van Orden to do one of those sections. Either the $800,000 section or the $1.5 million section,
To be determined.
to be determined, yeah,
Okay.
Under Van Orden. Oh,
under
Van
Van Ordens. Well, I guess we'd probably do it for both, but I figured we had time to talk about, we were gonna talk at council, I think you said about
Van Orden.
Baldwin's.
Van Orden's has to be submitted on Monday.
Correct.
So there is no time to have further conversation.
Yeah, that's why I was like, if you,
Do you want us to recommend one or the other?
Well, so this is interesting. So we had this conversation just today, and we were, because of Van Orden's priorities, we were going to, my understanding is you were gonna go after Baldwin's choice on this one. And that we weren't gonna commingle on this.
oh, I thought we were ranking one, having two projects, one that was our first priority and one that was our second.
That's what I
priority.
okay.
So this would be a second priority, but I would still
Gotcha.
make an application.
Oh, this would be a second priority under Van Orden's then.
Mhm.
Gotcha. I'm with you now.
I
Thank
think
you
it's
for
the
that.
most strategic way of doing it.
So if you haven't noticed, all of this has come together very rapidly. Molly Bond out of Van Orden's office announced this project early last week, I think. In
Yeah,
an
I didn't see it
email.
until.
And then at that point, she's the staffer for Van Orden. At that point, there was a deadline of to be determined. And then was it late last week or even on Monday?
Yeah, I heard
they
about it
said,
on
oh, by
Monday."
the way, the deadline's next Monday. So that required Sarah and I to meet rapidly this morning and go through a bit of a blitzkrieg of information to one another about how to approach this and what like what was most strategic, what would help the plan and things like that. So I wonder why even we are still a little confused about what our plan of action is, just because the plan is rapidly developed within the last 3 hours.
Well, the purple one would lead to more housing, right?
Well, I certainly think that the housing could happen regardless, because they're gonna come in off of Education Avenue as well. So you can see that orange space there is that new certified survey map
Yeah.
altogether. And so right now, Education Avenue terminates into what is essentially a driveway to the south. That driveway would then be redone as a full public road. What wouldn't make sense is if it was isolated from the rest of the road network, and that's what bringing in West South Street would do. Is they want to connect. You can see the road that they essentially not platted yet, but essentially carved out there to connect to West South Street. If they make that a new road, and as Sarah said, that small section of West South Street west of Parkwood is essentially a glorified driveway, it's not going to make sense it's just not, it wouldn't make sense. So like in some way, shape or form, we have to sort of complete the infrastructure, and that's why doing the purple makes sense,
You're gonna take part of their land, then the property of the,
which is typical in the subdivision and becomes public right away.
yeah.
When you
Wow.
say take part of your land,
Oh, that's already.
that's already public right away. It's just built as a,
Got houses, I mean, trees and stuff on it. What I'm seeing,
Yeah, and that's pretty
Part
common.
of their
that
yard.
Boulevard trees or,
yeah.
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 yeah,
Okay.
and it's not
But-
just road, it's also the sewer is likely gonna wanna go that direction because it's going lower
that's a good
land,
point.
yeah.
that plot is fully within the city, or was this an extraterritorial?
It's all within the city.
It is.
Now, you can see it's one big parcel right now. It is not intended to be
Of course.
one big parcel. They have discussed some preliminary plans with us on how they would like to turn it into a full subdivision plat.
Right.
It's just not in front of us just yet.
Yeah, I was just curious whether it would be then.
Well, it looks like there's a chunk that's not.
I don't know that I understood what the downside would be for applying for the grant, other than your time and energy.
Right.
You know,
That's
like,
basically it.
stop doing everything and only focus on that.
Part of why this is attractive to me is that I've already applied to Van Orden for the whole project
Mhm.
in previous years. We actually were brought forward in 2025, and then that all didn't happen. And then we reapplied in 26, but we just weren't selected. So for me to put this together is kind of just reorganizing things I've already done.
Mhm.
I'd be looking for a new letter. You actually wrote one for me before on this. But it's not as laborious as some of the other ones that like it's starting fresh.
Mhm.
Sarah, so can you just remind me then, what is the full project proposal for this? To your best guess, because I know some of you and Matt are still working on some numbers, and then what would be the request from Van Orden?
It would be to do a segment of this project, whatever we're not gonna do. So we need to strategize what makes the most sense to use that $400,000 from the DOT. It's either gonna be the red or the green, so meaning the east or the middle.
Gotcha.
And whenever we decide what that is, the other part we're gonna apply under for Van Orden, because it's just a timing thing. The DOT money is gonna have to be used and spent before we're gonna be able to make a move on if we get the Van
Right.
Orden money. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you
The-
need us, Barb.
The
go
Van
ahead.
Orden money was, did you say it was 80%?
So it depends on, yes-ish. If it goes under USDA, it's a 80-20 split. If it goes under EPA, it's a 75-25, and we can
Okay.
specify what we like it to be under, but they eventually just divvy it up how they want the projects to go.
We'll ask if it's under USDA, we'll ask for 80. In
80,
talk,
70, I mean,
I did
yeah.
talk to Kurt today, and he said last round, they gave everybody 75%, even if they asked for more.
Sure.
And frankly, at this point, like
Yeah.
75, 80, either or,
We'll take it.
It's all still better than 40.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need us to approve you applying for the Van Orden.
Correct. That
Okay.
would be great for a portion of the West South Street project.
Anyone want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Do you need it repeated? Because I'm not sure that I caught the exact
Approve
word.
The Van Orden, her
Approve
applying for the Van Orden.
to apply for Van Orden's
Money.
appropriations grant.
I'll second.
Making sure you had it, Lori. Motion by Tanya, second by Todd. And this sounds like not a real.
I'm gonna pretty it up because it went multiple places, but I think you're gonna want to give Sarah the authority to apply for Van Orden's congressional appropriation grant funding for the
West End of
West South Street
Yeah, South Street.
reconstruction.
Yes, indeed.
That's
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I heard, but I wanted to
Yeah,
verify.
there you go. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for all that work, Sarah.
Of course.
Construction project updates.
Oh, boy. There's not a ton to update. I would say we're gonna see movement next week. And on the Hanson property, things are looking pretty good. They'll start doing that section of the vent. So the remaining bit of the landfill trench that we have, and start keeping going from where they're at. They've got some water main and sewer main to do in that multi-family area. Gearing up to send out an email about Center Avenue again. People are excited to know when we're starting, but I'm waiting to hear a few things.
So we've got, obviously, when Badger's starting, I expect them to start on the south end, but they may have more than one crew. So then we have to figure out like how to keep traffic flowing properly and things working for everybody as best as we can. The Excel Energy is going to be moving some of the poles on Center Avenue. So I'm trying to confirm exactly when they plan on coming out and doing that. It could be in the next couple of weeks. They're just sliding some poles over just to accommodate the path. But then independent of all of this, but somewhat involved in all of it, that I also want to make sure I update Center Avenue people because they're kind of in it anyway, is that Excel through the people that contract under them are doing work on the poles that cross Main Street. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be working on the pole like right south of City Hall. And then they're going across the street and they're doing that sort of in the green area there, right near there. There's a pole that they're changing, 2 poles, in fact. But during that, they're crossing over Main Street with wires. So they're intending to close Highway 14, like literally close it for 2 minutes, which I was trying to emphasize, like, we feel like a small town, but Main Street has an enormous amount of traffic. So 2 minutes is like miles of backup. So we're trying to make, Rick's working with us, they're working with us. We're all trying to figure out like the best way for them to do it, because I think about it like a water shut off. Like when we're tying people back in, it could just take 20 minutes. But if something goes wrong, we might be here for an hour to 2 hours. And so I said, like, when you say 2 minutes, are you talking that's about the absolute max? He said, well, if something went wrong, it might be more like 5 minutes. And I was like, that's a really long time. So I've talked to Rick about making sure we have a detour plan set up and that we're ready to do it. They're supposed to give us a week's notice. And I keep pushing them, like, when do you think it's going to be? But they haven't confirmed a date yet. But I've seen them out there, like just recently, this last week, they were out there. I'm sure it's like sort of checking a few things out. So that's coming. And I would like to be able to give information to everybody, at least on the center project list, but we'll also put it on Facebook to let people know. Just avoid Main Street if you're today. I also said, like, here is our peak times a day, because we have very severe peak times of day, right? It's the morning, even noon, and then when school gets out, and then kind of like a get off work time. It was like, ideally you do this in the middle of the night when no one's out, but at least do it, after 6 o'clock, so, so that you're into the evening. So anyway, we will see how that goes. Construction projects, the landfill, we continue to make progress on the design of the landfill and what those blowers and flare setup would look like. So we have our public meeting next Tuesday at the council meeting. And I don't know if it'll be ready at that meeting, but we're going to have a serious conversation probably at Public Works first about where these blowers are going to be located. Because it's going to be something that we really should think very clearly, thoroughly through. You're going to have, that's going to be a source of noise. It's also going to be, the flare is going to be there. So like, do we want to have it in a single location? Do we want one on either side? And if we want one, where would we want it to be? On a lower area, a higher area? So we need to think through that. So they're going to come up with some options for us. That's all I have for construction project update.
Okay, street and utility department updates.
Wanna
Cheryl
go
wanna
first,
go
Cheryl?
first?
Yeah.
Well, the audit, as far as I know, went well for utilities. We had a couple good discussions about some things which Sarah and I will talk about on Thursday in our monthly meeting. But yeah, they were pretty pleased with how we looked, and I'm much farther ahead in the PSC annuals this year than I was last year. If you guys remember, I was pretty much on my own last year. So I only have a couple more to finish up. So I'm pretty much ahead of schedule on that. And I'm going to start updating then and revising the 5-year budget forecast, and because we have a 5-year rotating budget that we do. And now we'll put in some more projects and put in some more grants, et cetera. And so it's always in a process of changing.
Maybe you could talk a little about what the PSC thing that you're doing.
Sure. So I do about 17, 18 PSC annual reports. There's something that I am able to do and the auditors don't need to do them anymore. So I'd like to say it actually saves us some money, but it's hard to tell now because every year, there's more and more governmental requirements. And so our bill never seems to go down. It just seems to go up. So I don't really know the impact of it. But right now I'm working on our meters. So we have to account for every meter that we have installed in the city and every meter that we take out and every meter that we replace and every meter we have sitting in inventory. And if those don't match, the one nice thing about the PSC is that all the reports kind of match each other. So like report 14, some of those balances will match report 22. And if report 22 and 14 don't balance, then you know you've done something wrong. And there's 39 reports on the actual utility billing side of things. There's on the financial side of things, there's around 40 different reports that are done. So and some of the financial reports will match some of the billing reports. So they all kind of intermix, and when all is said and done, it tells a really good synopsis of what kind of shape our utilities in. And then when I do that rate of return every year, when I come to ask you for the simplified rate case increase, all of that goes down to that one little report. So, yeah.
That's an incredible amount of work also. Yes.
We all have an incredible amount of
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
It gets easier and easier every year because I learn something more and I figure out something to do more efficiently. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Mhm.
Anyone have any questions for Cheryl? Okay. Sarah?
Okay, so from Greg, we have, they're starting jetting soon. So that's our sewer cleaning. Grease trap inspections they've been working on, so that'd be like a business restaurant kind of thing, making sure they have proper grease traps. Working on meter changing, lift station cleaning and maintenance. And then Wade talked about they plowed snow again, and I just can't believe the snow events they've had this year. They've just been doozies. They do a great job. I can't imagine the stress that they go through. And this time I actually had Jeff from the police department send me a note saying how happy he was with all the help that they got, like not even plowing, like them pulling people out that were stuck, and like they were doing things that weren't their norm, and then they were still trying to catch up, right? So yeah, it's great stuff. They hauled a lot of that snow away because that was another weird thing, is that it wasn't really melting. It was just the cold weather stayed for a while. So they did a lot of snow hauling. They actually hauled snow during the day more than I've seen them trying to clean things up. And cleaned out approaches and the catch basins, fixed some signs, trimmed and cut trees, and getting ready to fix the plow damage. So that's always a thing that happens, especially when it's warm, when they go out, is it's just hard not to tear up sod or whatnot. So it's from the guys. I worked really hard last week trying to get that build grant in. So that was a big relief for me to finally get that in. And even though there's appropriations money comes up, I am also trying to get the USDA grant in for the landfill. So it is like grant writing season for me. which is good. I like to mix it up. We've been working on the burn site stuff, so the gentleman's gonna come in and do the chipping, get rid of what we have out there right now with the tub grinder, and then we need to think about the right way to go forward. So I have some ideas. I do some of my best thinking in the middle of the night. But what Greg, or keep wanting to call him Greg tonight. What Wade has been trying to do is trying to contact the commercial folks and have a meeting with them. Like, here's some ideas and see if we can get some feedback, because we're obviously trying to work together, right? So, and I do think the idea of having some contribution from the private entities would be helpful. And so, like, again, we got to figure out what that all means. But we haven't forgotten about it. We're just going a little slower than we were hoping, because just trying to get a hold of people. I think that's it, unless somebody has questions specifically.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Second period for public comment. Nobody's here. Anyone online like to make a comment? Please leave your name and your address, or say your name and your address. Okay, sounds like no one. Adjournment.
Gotta make motion to adjourn.
AJ, I'll second.
Motion by Todd, second by Tanya. I'm sorry, AJ, she didn't have her mic on, but she did say it before you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.